What's up, guys? We of course had All Out recently this last night, and I had to say it was the most boring pay-per-view of this year. I give WWE slack, but at least they have a few stuff that at least keeps me over the source of intrigue in a match, and they don't try to drag it too long. But I know some of the matches go to unnecessary lengths to bring some semblance of. Look at these guys as major athletes. Look at these guys as major athletes. On the in any specification, we know that they're good, or else they wouldn't be signed to the into the company. This was just an overly dragged show with the semblance of telling somewhat of a story over Moxley still kicking the piss out of MJF, even though his finisher was restricted. We had your major storyline for the women's division be so degraded that it was probably the first match of the night. You had the unnecessary input of the Young Bucks just to know how I feel about Hangman, and then you had the overly dragged 30-minute, 3-hour match involving the tag team titles over the semblance of selling a leg over the major trustworthy storyline, but still it had Kenny no selling it as soon as he left out the building immediately. The show was so goddamn boring. The biggest part of the show was the bigger botch, and it was Matt Sydal back in the Battle Royal debuting for AEW. He comes around doing his signature move, a shooting star press. Instead of everybody getting their shit in, he comes around freaking botching the shooting star press, landing flat on his back, and that was literally the highlight of the show. Anything else? Me and my brother were so tired out of trying to watch the rest of All Out that he fell asleep during the main event because some of the matches had some decent spots. Well, because you have good moves doesn't determine good story, and if you have nothing to determine good story and actual intrigue, like having some weapons inside, or at least bringing more drama into why these guys are still friends in the first place, the hell am I still watching this 30-minute match with FTR against a mismatched team that's somehow been holding the belt for 7 months? They could have let it go to anything, and it could have been Hangman being too selfish and Kenny struggling to work together. Shit like that doesn't have a record-breaking reign, and they're the second champions in the business in the AEW's history. God damn, it's like a Batista and Cena back in '08 beating currently the New Day's record. That I wouldn't mind, to be honest, because at least I like those guys. So we have the comedic schlock of overbooked schlock that was Big Swole versus Britt Baker, using Reba as just a comedic punching bag, tossing her into a garbage. There was blood out of nowhere. These guys comedically just slapped diplomas on their head. No semblance of drama at all. Until Britt Baker got a syringe right into the back. I mean, right over to the leg of, I think it was Novocaine. She got they over exaggerated too much over the thing. Big Swole came around, putting her in the dental chair, putting her to sleep for the win. Because she was on the dental chair. Big win for the longest feud currently on AEW, probably ending. But this is terrible because it just makes Britt Baker just feels like a bona fide coward. I understand the coward heel, but especially if you're not going to bring her some semblance of intimidation, because they tried the same thing with Mike Knox back in '09 when they tried to make him like bring excessive detail that he knows every specific time a body breaks, and he just loses to Finley or John Morrison on SmackDown. Like, that doesn't make any source of intimidation, especially if you're losing to a Tootsie Roll Pop head ass with braids. You are not being taken that seriously, Britt, and this is coming to a diminishing, crappy women's division. I currently Kylie Ray's in a better one on Impact, and I don't like to bring a lot of praises to Impact in certain reasons. Next up, we have the Young Bucks against the Jurassic Express. I've only watched somewhat of the match because somehow my TV was bugging out. Uh, all we had was moonsaults, sidle place spots. We had a moonsault, some kicks, some combos. Just the same thing as just every Young Bucks match. Except, oh, they're angry and Hangman for costing them the tag belts. So why the hell are you still having a pay-per-view match, even though the rankings already set that FTR got a title shot? It makes no sense. Even if you didn't build it up for pay-per-view. Brian Cage earned a battle royal back. Earned a shot at that ladder match at Double or Nothing, and he somehow just got a special title match at Fyter Fest. No, it got moved up to no Fight for the Fallen because Renee was an idiot and got positive for COVID. But this was just boring. It was just the same predictable match, basic spot. This was literally the best tag team, and they had the religion of AEW just to have 8-man spot fest work rate, no consistency of storytelling match. We're just having the oversemblance of trying to think that we know the defined characters of skinny fat QT Marshall that does moonsaults, Matt Cardona that barely even had a one-on-one match since being on AEW to even know what his character is, other than he just behaves still like Zack Ryder except a dumbass beard. The most over guy literally being a man that has like decades of more experience than most of the guys he's in the ring with, and Scorpio Sky. That's I think still with STU, but I don't want to get too ahead of myself. So yeah, the Casino Battle Royal. They all get it, money, mainly for pay per view. Next up, like when they actually do monthly pay per view, they're gonna do buyout, bought in, depression, debt, kill me. I'm still watching this. What are you talking about? This match was 30 minutes. So we had the Casino Battle Royal. That, of course, I told you earlier in the review that Matt Sydal made an appearance, made it the most funniest botch I've probably ever seen. And the most this guy was relevant for was pretty much getting RKO'd off a shooting star press. It was the coolest spot, but it wasn't nearly like the Shelton Benjamin effect. Like, we know how athletically gifted this guy has. And he seems to be over by the crowd. But he somehow has the relevance to always be notable for getting a finisher done on him than the other way around. It sucks, and it's sad because last time I saw Matt Sydal, it's like I think 2018 when he was like X Division champion and all that stuff. When it looked like Impact was finally trying to get their shit together after an abysmal 2018. Now here he is botching his shooting star press. Why does he look nearly remotely similar to Alex Shelley? I don't know. That's just me. Sean Spears. They started up with four combatants, and then they had come around Christopher Daniels, and later on we had Kazarian, some Keith Lee ripoff out of Will Hobbs, and Billy Gunn that hit one famous where he got eliminated later on the show. Running drop kicks. There was a freaking Hurricane Aranas when they were like Lance Archer and Brian Cage trying to get one-on-one. It's like, guys, lift each other up. Brian Cage, you're built like a muscle-bound freak. Why aren't you lifting him up? And it's like, I get it. We want to show the athletic. Like, these guys can't just be muscleheads. We show the ability of every athletic ability here on AEW. You have, like, and it's cool. Like, it's a one-sided cool. Like, Brock Lesnar did a shooting star press. But that's, like, the rarity that you ever see him do anything else other than jump up the apron for pyro to happen. No one wants to see Brian Cage do freaking Hurricane Ranas and 619s. Brian Cage can, like, literally just deadlift you from the ground and give you a power bomb. I want to see that type of crap. And we have Will Hobbs that just got beaten up for most of the time until later, like I think Final Five, they were eliminated. Eddie Kingston was nearly the top 5 left, but we knew they were just giving it to Lance Archer to begin with. Let's get real. None of these guys, like what I said in my previous lineup, I'm not giving borderline predictions. I was just giving my opinion out for most of the card that I thought absolutely sucked in this pay-per-view. Just displayed how much it sucked. This was just really dependent on just any source of spots. I think Phoenix did do that running punt face. and they were trying to bring some coalition into the Butcher and Blade and Ray Phoenix and Lucha, Ray Phoenix and Pentagon, and somehow Eddie Kingston conforming into a faction, even though if it was just what Eddie Kingston did with Santana and Ortiz, that would be more understandable because they've been overlooked since being in the inner circle, and that would make more sense and better storytelling. But that's besides the point. Eddie Kingston's here, and it's just Sean Spears just brung some semblance because he started off. I know I'm off topic, but I have to just make sure I don't drag into other extra stuff. But by God, man, the Sean Spears just a bland ass, and they just thought, hey, this will get you some character. It's a glove. You will join the Four Horsemen, and Peyton Royce will be mine. Wait, that's besides the point. That's besides. Uh, other than that, other than that, uh, Lance Archer won off eliminating Eddie Kingston. The match had some decent bright spots. Literally, the highlight of the match, shockingly, was a freaking botch by Matt Sydal. Like when you try to finish, like back in the previous generation days for consoles for wrestling games, you get to stop the high flying move and you end up hitting flat on your back. That was Matt Sydal trying to attempt a shooting star press. So next up we had, of course, the AEW women's match, or literally one of the better matches on the show. Hikaru Shida against Thunder Rosa. I was expecting to go good for an interpromotional match over trying to counter off the sleeper. Nice array of kicks up, no selling somewhat from Thunder Rosa. Decent stomps. I think there was a running clothesline off from using the chair. A Meteora. A couple uh Tope Suicidas from the outside. I don't like saying that word. I'm just gonna say Suicide Dives from Thunder Rosa. Multiple kickouts, even off a Michinoku driver. Falcon Arrow couldn't even get the near fall. And it came off, I think, a Shining Wizard for the win. Hikaru Shida had a decent match. I want to say, like, it brings some semblance to that at least Hikaru should have been a competent champion. But especially to a casual fan, and you just have a random Japanese woman that currently can't speak fluent lick of English is holding the women's title for that array, and you don't have her in an interesting feud, especially with a character that's not even established that much in the roster. Because we have Nyla Rose, some Shima that's with Vicky Guerrero, and yet they're not having TV time, and she was supposed to be composed to be like the contender for the women's title. Goes absolutely nowhere. She hasn't even asked for a rematch for the last several months since she lost that belt in like Double or Nothing. And then here she is just facing off against it. Thunder Rosa. There's nothing wrong with it. It just feels completely out of place. It just feels like there's no challengers. Like everybody should be hungry, especially in a new Fed, that everybody should have the right, or at least try to earn a spot, or try to take what's theirs, like the women's title. Make more hungry characters. Without that, you have no source of like any source of drive or ambition, especially for younger or even experienced rosters. You're gonna just feel like we're happy to be here. That's what something I wanted AEW not to be. Next we have the Dark Order, including Cole Cabana against Scorpio Sky, Matt Cardona, and the National Nightmares. That is somehow QT Marshall that looks like he can actually help your Apple product other than munching on too many of those things every match. And of course, the most over guy out of all this was technically just Dustin Rhodes. And that's a sad thing to say. He did earn a TNT championship after winning an 8-man tag out of everybody else, but a vengeance for your brother that did get assaulted after the show, but he did lose clean. The Rhodes pride that Cody stupidly can't get. It's the match was was okay. It just felt like they were just trying to do too much to bring some semblance of we're trying to do this to respect the Rhodes family, uh, the Nightmare family, and all this shit. And we just feel like this was just a normal Dynamite match. Like, what's really the selling point of this? If it was if Dustin team wins, then Dark Order was disbanded, or the Exalted One gives Brody Lee gives Justin a title shot, or any one of us a title shot. That could have been more compulsive to watch an 8-man tag that was trying to just poorly give a reason for QT Marshall and Matt Cardona to say the F word on pay-per-view. I don't give a damn. It just bland. It ended up off Colt Cabana. That's literally whenever somebody does a finisher for him, he just takes the pin. After the discus clothesline comes, he just comes around stupidly doing a moonsault. But guess what? Dustin, after literally getting hit with the clothesline, rolls out away from the moonsault and just gets a surprise roll-up pin. Dark Order loses to the Natural Nightmares, including Scorpio Sky and Mike Cardona. And this just felt like a match that could have been on Dynamite, with stupidly promoted, and they could put this in the opening part of the show. This match had no reason to exist, in my opinion. Could have had so many other type of matches in, or probably what some smarks want is probably licking the ass of Sunny Kiss or something with Joey Jelena right behind, or something like that. I don't want that in your mentality, but that's how much I really just like these type of matches, especially when it just feels like this is just a 3 hour special of Dynamite that hopefully they don't do. I want something consumable. I don't want just match after match. If AEW had a 3 hour, you know how many people would tune off? Next up, we had AEW Tag Team titles on the line against Kenny Omega and Adam Asshole Page. Beep. I'm sorry, I bleeped that late. It was just like the FTR's promo. FTR, and they brought some semblance of teasing a Four Horseman faction with 3 unestablished guys. The the only singles one, Sean Spears, that wasn't even in moral support, consistently loses to the top babyface in the company and wrestles more on Dark than he does in Dynamite. Obviously, a Horseman worthy performer because he wears a glove now, guys. Come on, don't disrespect my man, Mr. 10, and of course FTR. They at least have won the tag belts now. I thought it could have been just something a bit better, but it wasn't. Especially after everybody sucking the dick of the Young Bucks match they had with him back in February. That I thought the match was meh, but they tried to drag too much and bring some semblance of a story, even though these guys are still just doing stupid super kicks. They want to bring some semblance of, oh, these guys are still trying to coexist, even though Hangman is not part of the freaking elite anymore. That just feels like a fan club now. It doesn't feel like a borderline faction other than these guys are friends. And we had some basic moves with them cutting over to the corner and Jim Ross just look and Excalibur trying to think he knows what he's talking about. I was so bored I was making my own commentary, and if anybody wants to see that, I'd rather you not. It's just the match was overly dragged, man. They wanted to put up to so much stuff that FTR was being more strategic, or they were or Hangman that opening the contest immediately rushed into attack headfirst, and they could have been caught up to a trap or something. Uh, then they brung finally some semblance of strategy, like 24 minutes into the match, that they were just targeting and giving dragon screws at Kenny Omega's leg. And that was overly pinnacle, so overly targeted that after the match was done, Kenny Omega couldn't even come and break the pin after the second attempt for a freaking assisted pilo driver. He walks off and just leaves Hangman Page for dry. Even though Hangman was literally trying his best to try to coexist with Kenny so they can win, so they can retain the tag belts. At least they lost the belts. That's the only thing I wanted. I don't care who took it off. It could have been like Joey Jalen and freaking Sonny Kiss. I just wanted to see somebody that wasn't a mismatched tag team. Oh, God. The match blown. We had some decent spots of okay hot tags. We had some drop kicks. And I couldn't even tell what was design coming from for Kenny Omega's tights other than I thought it was probably Dark Side because of the Omega symbols. And it just We had some counters over to the V trigger. Nice. I'll bring some semblance of the match got a bit better in the second half, but it just felt like they were just overly dragging when the match was nearly done when it was coming through all the spots, especially when Kenny was still doing freaking topes and moves off the apron, even though it's shown that he's still suffering from an injury. And then as soon as that happens, as soon as Hangman was just asking for a little bit of help because he can barely stand after literally having two power drivers on him, Kenny just walks off and leaves him. I understand he costs the Young Bucks much, but Kenny just piddles around like a little bitch and just leaves with his musty ass out of the car because he's angry that he left his friends, putting his musty ass in the car without even taking off his wrestling gear. I understand they probably live, he has a hotel or something probably close by, though. It makes no sense. The match sucked. The match sucked. I don't like being like, oh my god, oh, this smart bullshit. I don't mind matches like this. It just overly drags to bring some semblance of drama into something we've been already waiting for months of this shit to break off. Doesn't bring any source of prestige. We didn't even know that the tag belts existed. Next up, we had the Mimosa Mayhem match for Kenny to try to break the tie because they're 1-for-1. Both sharing wins back at back at I think it was Fighter Fest, and they won, and then regular episode of Dynamite for a rematch that had Eric Bischoff in it, hyping up the rematch. We finally had a Mimosa Mayhem match that had them consistently nearly dipping in the pools of mimosa. Tornado DDTs. We immediately opened off of a freaking codebreaker that came out of nowhere, and he kept teasing off the Judas effect. The bat was somehow illegal, but somehow you can only win off pinfall or submission. Maybe rules shouldn't be abided if you were going to restrict that many winning. I'm not going to go that far. Just the match was okay. Out of everything, the match did at least some semblance of comedic justice. Uh, Hank Orange, you haven't seen any men that look like freaking tomatoes and look until you've seen both freaking Orange Cassidy and Chris Jericho. These guys were redder than a freaking fresh tomato you just picked out of your own freaking garden. They looked red. And I understand it was just worn out. This match had some dragons like, your fat ass should have slipped off immediately. Just drowning and dumping his face into the pool of mimosa, burning the eyes, and they were trying so much to excuse why both of these guys were acting like idiots because they were blind by alcohol and orange juice, stinging the eyes of Orange Cassidy. Sorry, that was my 17th neck. And I love Jim Ross, just like making fun of him. The match was okay. It ended up off a surprise Superman punch after Jericho was clinching out the second rope. I thought he broke his neck. Sorry, by the way, I was supposed to go over the broken rules match with Sammy Guevara and Matt Hardy. Just know that was an absolute joke of a match. Luckily, Matt Hardy was immediately rushed into the hospital after literally suffering from a concussion after a crossbody gone wrong from the top when they were fighting near the football field. It absolutely looked like a basalted flood. Big ups to have Matt Hardy finishing the match, tossing Sammy outside of some kind of metal beam platform, and and Matt was just stuck there until I think he slowly came off. The match ended mediocrely with them slowly trying to stop the match because of course Matt didn't look condemned to compete, and yet he still finished off the match just walking out, still calling out for Sammy, even though I felt like he was probably retarded, and yet he was still with his broken phase, whatever phase, probably still side piece phase. I don't know. They just know I don't care about the match. Good to hear that Matt Hardy's okay though. And I thought, by the way, I thought Matt kind of broke. I thought Thunder Rosa, I think it was a plancha, uh, near the steps, and she looked like she was about to hit her neck. I thought she was gonna die or something, man. Like those steps, they don't look okay for me, especially if you want to do high spots there. Just do it outside the entranceway, unless there's a lot of people. Next up, of course, we had our main event for the AEW World Title. And I could say this literally was the best match. And people can excuse that, oh, because of the lack of fans, you guys now have fans. Don't excuse the audience. And I understand audience is a large portion of any viewership for wrestling, but you can make a decent show off a lack of viewership. Look at Ring of Honor. I'm joking, that's messed up. But still, you could just you guys did okay back at Double or Nothing. I don't know why in the hell we are just inexcusing this now, because we just now you guys now allowed a 10% increase in fan attendance. And this was months out when there was just you impromptu wrestlers coming into support. I'm sorry if the most over thing the fans got to chant was just Jericho's theme song. Don't excuse it. Your show sucked. Stop making 30-minute 8-man tag team matches with no storytelling. You have everything trying to blame everything in the kitchen sink but yourself. That the show was mediocre. In large faction, at least we had some semblance of a main event with MJF and Moxley. I did want to go over the 27th vignette over MJF restricting the paradigm shift just to give him a huge advantage. And the match was okay. Over, managing to counteract using the armbar. He bit, like later on in the match, he bitten off trying to go for his Fujiwara armbar, and it looked like a dickhead move. Moxley busted open MJF like he did back in the Go Home show before All Out, where he was gnawing in the forehead until he busted open, and MJF was busted open. Like Jesus Christ, like an it balloon busted open. And it was cool. Decent elevated DDT. Okay factors. MJF was really trying to feel like he can outsmart Moxley and just punish him while restricting him with the move, and the ref was trying to stop him because he knew what was going to cost him. Why would the ref be concerned? I understand it's an illegal move in the match, but if he did it, it just brings a better example into everything being against Moxley. But yeah, he was tossed over the guardrail. To be honest, I wanted MJF to win because I thought Moxley was just a bland champion, nearly like uh McIntyre, but at least McIntyre's matches are entertaining, and he looks like a star. He looks like he can get at least a couple fans introduced to the product because he looks like a guy, and probably if he was a heel, he would be way better at it. Moxley is just bred babyface. He's just born a babyface, and it'll be like that. Just a bland, I'm gonna fight, sleep, and I'm gonna do the same things I did for WWE. I'm gonna do in the quirky faction, and plus I can say shit now to make it feel more edgy. And that term gets thrown really loosely in the YWC, even in the wrestling business, because stuff was good in the '90s. It was good in the '90s. You're not cool for saying it's edgy. But yeah, it ended up off after MJF was in a bit of a disadvantage. Wardlow came to distract the ref and tried to give a no-look pass, but just like it did to Klay Thompson against Curry, absolutely foiled too far for MJF to reach with the ref distracted. Paradigm shift. End of the match. Moxley wins. He gets away from using the paradigm shift, bringing it to like, even though you retained your title last time using an armbar, you retained your title when you faced off against Brody Lee with a sleeper hold. I mean, the last time you retained your title, you with the paradigm shift was against Darby Allin. That wasn't even on pay-per-view. That was 3 weeks ago. You're telling me that You couldn't do a cool, creative way to retain the title to actually make sure you're more dangerous? That's a bit underwhelming, even for me. Shawn Michaels had his Sweet Chin Music restricted, and he had more unique ways of winning the title back, of winning the WWE title back in '07. Well, whatever. Moxley retained. The only titles to change the entire night was just the tag team belts. That was way overdue. Lance Archer gets a future shot against Moxley for the world title that hopefully he loses it to, even though Lance Archer wouldn't be that much better. And of course, the probably the cleaner phase for Kenny Omega. Raw. So yeah, that was all out, and it was just a boring schlock of 25-minute matches, where the only entertainment I had from it was literally the main event. And even that was an underwhelming finish, like it was for the tag team title match. Just, by God, if I were you, just, I don't advise a lot of rewatches of pay-per-views because I want AEW to succeed. I really do. But if you're going to make boring stock like this and excuse the lack of attendance, even though you guys haven't even gotten a real attendance or even got the chance to sell tickets since March of this year, you also should be grateful for what you got for this bland product. To think that you having like 4 tag team matches, a boring, overbooked skit match, even though that was your longest feud of the show, and a crappy, overbooked tag title match. And the best part was literally just the main event. Just know your show sucked. Please. But that was my review. Thanks for watching. If I want to just clear my head real quick, so I'll just say this: Jadavion Clowney's on the Titans. I know it comes out of nowhere, but at least it's more important than whatever the hell Dynamite will be next week. Other than that, give you guys a happy Labor Day, and thanks for watching my review. If you want to see more of my garbage, content, subscribe, follow the channel, and I'll be sure to always comment on your, you know, interesting comments. Some of them good though. But thanks for watching, folks. That's it coming for me.